Impact segment tonight, radio commentator Rush Limbaugh is becoming a very controversial player in this year's election. Here's the latest.
Let's say it is Obama and Hillary. Hillary Obama. Let's put Hillary at the top. Put Hillary on top. That's a position she's familiar with. Therefore, you've got a woman and black, first time ever on the Democrat ticket. They don't have a prayer.
Now, right after that comment, Mr. Limbaugh took a phone call, so he did not explain the why behind his statement. We emailed his office about that, but we have not received an answer. Joining us now from Philadelphia, Dr. Marc Lamont Hil, who teaches American Studies at Temple University. You have any idea what Mr. Limbaugh was driving at there?
Oh, absolutely. He was trying to do two things. On the one hand, he was doing something very strategic. He was trying to reiterate the idea that this isn't a viable ticket because it plays into Republican interest for the ticket not to be viable. But more significantly, I think, he's trying to reflect an actual truth for once, and that is that American people are likely not ready for a ticket that has an African-American man and a white woman at the same time.
But why? I don't understand why. I mean, I think we live in a pluralistic society. We're seeing record numbers of people coming out to vote in the Democratic primaries. I understand that there's bias, and I understand some people wouldn't vote for a black or a woman, but there's also people who would vote for that candidate simply because they were black or female. So that's a wash. That balances. So I'm not getting, does Rush Limbaugh think that the majority of the country feels that women and blacks aren't qualified to lead? I don't think so. He's never come across that way to me.
Well, I can't speak for what's inside of Rush's mind, although I would wager to say he probably does think that. But
why would you wager that?
But I think the bigger, real fast though, but I think the bigger point here is not that the majority of Americans think that way, but that there is a significant of enough of a slice of Americans who can sway an election one way or the other. That's the issue. We don't know yet. White men are undefeated in presidential elections in American history. I mean, so there's no way to tell yet,
Although Millard Fillmore almost broke that streak. but don't you see my point about, look, you're right, there are people who are prejudiced against blacks, and there are men who say, I don't want a woman in the White House. But there's just as many people on the other side say, I want a woman and I want a black. So that, to me, that neutralizes all of that kind of color and gender-based vote. Then you come down to the folks who don't have an agenda, the folks who really see the world in a clear way. And I don't believe America's that kind of country. I just don't believe it.
We live in two different worlds, and Bill, I mean, for the first, I don't concede the point that there's an equal number of people that are for a black president and against a black president. I think there are people who are supporting Barack Obama right now because the alternative is someone who's a woman, who is a Clinton, and who is highly polarizing. In a sexist society, Barack Obama might be the best alternative to Hillary, but when a white man, the more traditional candidate, is on the other side of the aisle, they may go the other way, particularly that independent slice of American voters who can go Democrat or Republican. This time around, they may choose Republican against their own interests.
I don't know. But you have a voting bloc of African Americans is going for Barack Obama, about 89%. Mm-hmm. And Hillary Clinton's a liberal woman with a long history of being friendly to African American communities. So you have to say some of that vote's race-based.
Oh, indeed. And they will get a race vote, but race votes aren't sufficient. We've seen, I mean, in 1988, Jesse Jackson got a race vote. Jesse Jackson got an 85-90% clip from African Americans as well. It wasn't enough to defeat Dukakis. You need more than just the black vote. You need white people to vote for you in order to win the presidency. And there's still serious doubt about that. New Hampshire brought some serious questions to many people's minds about whether or not, when a white person's against the wall, will white people close ranks around race as opposed to their own agenda.
But New Hampshire was a very significant vote for Barack Obama because he almost won in a state that's almost entirely white. See, I reject the fact that most Americans won't vote for a black man. You see,
I'm not saying most. I'm saying just a significant enough slice to sway an election.
All right, but Rush Limbaugh basically said, look, they don't have a chance. I don't believe that. I believe that if Hillary Clinton gets the nomination and selects Barack Obama as the VP, it'll be a very close race. If you just look at the Electoral College map, you could just go down the thing. It's going to be a shootout. And
No
it's going to depend on national security and the economy.
There's no doubt about that, Bill. And that's why, remember, my first point was part of what Russia's doing is strategic. He understands that if he impresses upon people the idea that a ticket isn't viable, people are less likely to endorse it. I do think, however, that the second part of that is still true, that there are people who will vote against the ticket because of the racial and gender politics. But you're right, it's not going to be a blowout either way. This is going to be a tight, contested race. That's why the politics are so vicious. That's why people like Russia are coming out so vehemently right now.
You know, I just want to reiterate to people that I reject the race-based won't vote for a black man because of the success of Condoleezza Rice and Colin Powell.
They didn't get elected.
They didn't get elected, but they're very widely respected in all the polls. Their favorability ratings are huge. And I'll submit to you that if either of those people ran for office, they would get elected. I'll give you the last word.
You know, the only people with clean uniforms are the ones who don't get into the game. You know, once you jump into the election, once you throw your hat into the ring, that's when you start to take the hits. Barack is wildly popular before the election. You're beginning to see him take some hits. If a black candidate jumps into the ring, they're going to take some hits, and I think you're going to see that in November.
All right. Well, white candidates take it too, Doctor, and
Indeed.
you know that.
That's
Everybody
right.
takes it at that level. Plenty more ahead as the factor moves along.